Okay, so we're recording. Hi, Melinda. Thank you so much for joining us and agreeing to do this this testimonial. Do you mind sharing with us what your name is and a little bit about your background?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name's Melinda. I previously, well, I guess currently too, but previously was in a Big Four consulting firm or Big Four accounting consulting firm doing regulatory compliance work with major banks. So super fun. Um, but actually, it is what I'm going to be going back into in my new role as well, but with a smaller firm.
Awesome. Okay, cool. And before you joined the program, can you just share a little bit about what your job search strategy was and how long you were looking, etc.?
Yeah, so I guess I left that job and went back for my MBA. I moved back at the like summer, July of last year. So I
Mm-hmm.
started probably searching more heavily in August, September, primarily on LinkedIn. I made an Indeed profile, and I think that was for the most part it. As far as what I did was it was actually kind of lazy. I'm not gonna lie, and not lazy, just more of I dread the process, as most
Yeah,
do, right? Cover letters and tweaking resumes. It's just
time consuming.
it's time consuming. It's not fun, and so I procrastinated on my end as well.
Mm-hmm.
That plus the whole not quite sure where to go or what to do because I have this background experience. However, I went back for my MBA to improve myself professionally and personally, but on top of that, wanting to move into like another stream.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was just kind of figuring out where to go next and a little lost. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And I know when you get your MBA, you feel like just with your bachelor's degree, once you graduate, you're like, okay, the world's going to be my oyster. I'm going to put myself out there. And then it's like crickets, right? I'm just curious, when you looked at LinkedIn and when you completed your Indeed profile, what were your results from searching online? Did you get a lot of interviews that way?
Um, Not really. I think I was only approached with maybe one opportunity, and that was
Mhm.
very salesy, which is not my forte or my interest.
Right.
I've heard that I got, I guess, like a LinkedIn message for were more entrepreneurial, like, oh, if you want to start your own business, like some of those types of emails that I did not really dig deeper into.
Yeah. Or a lot of insurance salespeople.
The sales one was insurance. I believe,
Okay.
yeah, that was
Yeah. Aflac goes hard on Indeed. They're like, oh, we see your resume. We have a phone number. They have a pulse. Let's call them. Okay. So I'm just also curious, through working with the program, what did you find the most helpful?
I think the most helpful is just having someone, so yourself, that had been on the inside, and
Hmm.
that insight and being able to work through stages that I didn't have to go through before because my first job essentially was like my biggest long-term one was
Hmm.
recruiting. So, the school sets up the job fair, you meet the recruiters, and everything is a little more laid out.
Yes.
Now, post that, and since I did my MBA overseas, so a lot of connections and the school has is primarily overseas.
Mm,
Quite helpful here.
right.
I'm like, oh, where do you go? And again, having your knowledge and experience of like how to network with people that are existing in your network and to kind of branch out as well as dealing with recruiters and how to talk to them as far as like salary negotiations and stuff, that was very beneficial.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I know it's really hard to navigate your career oftentimes when you're making such a transition or you have like this gap on your resume and it's like, okay, how do I explain myself? But yeah, you went to school in Madrid, right? So that was really far from the US. And I want to just dive in and understand a little bit more about what you ultimately walked away with in this program. Can you share?
Yeah, so I think what I walked away with, actually, So I know what I walked away with is just a better understanding of what I was looking for, um, and why I actually stayed at my job as long as I did, because there were the components about it. And consulting itself is definitely a lifestyle that you have to
Mm-hmm.
do. But those factors that make up consulting, like the traveling, the project orientation, and the analysis and just the problem solving, that is what I like.
Mm-hmm.
So knowing that, as I think you call them like energizers, I think was really helpful.
Mm.
And knowing that obviously what you're doing, the company that you're with, you can find fulfillment in things beyond that too, in the sense of like extracurriculars. So this new company um, really values that and like giving back to the community. So they have initiatives like donating to or matching a donation of my choice to like a charity, some other things like that that seem to align with more of things that give that personal fulfillment.
That's awesome. Yeah. So it's like you don't have to be this doctor. I think what I share in this course and this program is like you don't have to like find the cure for AIDS or do something like I don't know, quit your job and go do Doctors Without Borders. I don't know why I keep coming up with medical examples, but regardless, you don't have to save somebody's life, but you can save lives indirectly and find causes that you really care about and companies that are aligned with that mission, because then you'll ultimately be happier, right? So I'm glad you got a lot of career clarity out of it. Could you share a little bit more about your new opportunity and where you're headed? And yeah, like talk to me about the new job.
Yeah, so the new job, like I said earlier, is similar as far as the type of work that I have been doing. However, it is a smaller firm.
Mm-hmm.
So the one nice thing about this is that I will I assume, will go into the office knowing actually people there besides like, oh, this is the small start group you were with in the beginning, and that's kind of all who you know.
Mm-hmm.
So that is going to be a plus to me, that it's not just like this huge organization and you go in and you just kind of sit at the desk and then maybe ping a few people and just like head out. That was one of the big draws with also the company, that fortunately that it is smaller, it's what it affords. um, there will be a lot of traveling, which is right up my alley. Again, just to the consulting lifestyle, like I know exactly what I'm getting into.
Mm-hmm.
Something else that, oh, it is actually in LA. So another thing was transitioning from Phoenix to the Los Angeles OC area. So that one got accomplished.
Awesome.
And future looking, what I like to do too is again trying to pursue an opportunity within the marketing field
Mm-hmm.
and getting into those organizations that kind of specialize in it or that have those opportunities, whether it be in some sort of like a volunteer form.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, and that is actually something you mentioned as far as like a way to transition careers in those modules as well, like getting involved in other ways to show not only like a verbal interest, but a actionable item.
Definitely.
That is something that I will also look to do post move and post kind of settling in.
Awesome. Yeah, now that you have the clarity, you can absolutely make that happen. And so the clarity is the big part, right? I also want to dive into your negotiation because I know when you started working with me, you said you had never negotiated before. And this was one of the moments where you really stepped into that boldness and made that ask. I'm not sure how comfortable you feel with like your return on investment or anything like that, but share a little bit about, yeah, just preparing yourself for that negotiation if you can.
Yeah, absolutely. As you said, never had done negotiations before. And like honestly, like with my last company, I knew a colleague that asked for like a $200 raise just to bump him to the next like 1,000 tier, and they're like, no, this is you can't even get like $20 more. So that one, like whatever you got, like I got. There was no room, and I knew that.
Mm-hmm.
Tried at at each year end discussions. And coming into this one, I got the offer, and it was okay. Obviously, it could have been higher as anything.
Give me $100 million.
Could have been higher, and that's when I reached out to you just to see, like, is there room for negotiation, like based on this is the kind of how the conversation went with the recruiter.
Mhm.
What was your like initial gut feel, to which then you coached me through the fact that there is the excitement there. They do want me as a candidate or as a candidate, so why not kind of go for it and see what happens. And working with you, I actually did get I think it was like, yeah, like 5,000 increase to the
Mhm.
without giving anything up as far as like the extras, like sign-on bonus or potential year reviews and all the other things included in the package. And I felt pretty happy. I feel actually really happy with that, because as far as you said, the return on investment, it is like 5 times as much. So
Mhm.
I'm happy with it. I'm excited. So
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I'm super proud of you. And it's amazing because we talked about, sometimes you have to give a little to get some, but it sounded like when you made the ask, they left everything remaining and they just gave you more on top, which I know was a lot closer, if not your like minimum desired number, right?
it was, yeah, it was like the minimum desired number.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was probably the fastest negotiation call I ever had, but I only had
You
one.
spent more time preparing for it than the actual conversation.
And I think she was prepared for that.
Yeah,
Mention, not to just take the first offer out there.
right.
So,
Yeah, she was definitely expecting it.
yeah, honestly, 2 to 3 minutes.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, you made it. You have a new job that you're starting soon. So that's really exciting. I just want to ask one last question. If there were anybody on the fence about career coaching, what would you say to them?
I would say, obviously, other people, like people are in different financial positions, right?
Mm-hmm.
But to me, I feel like the coaching is like an investment in myself to further my progression, and as you put, to find like the ultimate like career happiness fit. So as cliche it is like, oh, invest in yourself because you're your own best investment. But it is really true. And then there's a
Mm-hmm.
whole other cliche saying that's like, you gotta spend money to make money. So
It's all true.
it is. So yeah, I get it if you're on the fence, because maybe monetarily you're not as liquid. But if it's something that you really, want to, I don't know, get essentially like a friend on the inside, because
Mm-hmm.
then you have that experience, and it definitely helps to talk to someone who has a very in-depth knowledge of how the behind the scenes work, to get you in the best position possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Melinda, for sharing. And I'm so glad that you're a part of the program and you're, in a sense, graduated on to your new next path. I know any company's really fortunate to have you on their team. So, again, thank you just for sharing and well said. Perfect.
So,
Say that one more time.
thank you for all your help.
Oh, you're welcome.